Morning, my name is Philip Msamba. I'm going to do a presentation on perspectives in psychology, Unit 9. In this presentation, we'll discuss five giant psychological approaches, which are behaviorism, cognitive psychology, psychodynamic psychology, biological psychology, and social psychology. I shall outline each of the perspectives, assess the underlying assumptions, review some of the major theorists, compare and contrast them, as well as critically assess how they are applied to modern nursing and NHS healthcare practice. These views are critical to nursing practice since treatment of the patient entails more than just physical therapy, but psychological, social, and behavioral knowledge. This is an indication of biopsychosocial approach that is the foundation of contemporary healthcare provision. Behaviorism is based on observable behavior and dismisses the internal mental states as being unscientific. Smoking cessation, addiction service, as well as behavioral activation of depression employ behaviorist principles in nursing. Behaviorists of the opinion that behavior is conditioned by rewards reinforcement and punishment. Positive reinforcement enhances the chances of repetition of behavior. Example, a teacher rewards stickers of praise or reward the classroom when a child completes his or her homework. The positive reinforcement enhances the probability of reoccurrence of behavior in the child. On the same note, behavioral charts within the school residential care facilities are founded on the principles of behavior. Behavioral evaluation, assumptions. It is through the environment that behavior is learned. The study of psychology must be concerned with behavior. Conditioning is a process of learning. Strengths and weaknesses, both scientific and measurable, a repeatable laboratory test, ranking practical applications. However, it is reductionist in regards cognition and feeling. The application, dealing with difficult behavior in education, mental and behavioral interventions. It is also deterministic, which applies that behavior is determined by reinforcement and not free will. Most importantly, whereas behavioral interventions prove effect in the short-term change of habits, the rate of relapses indicates that cognitive and social issues should also be considered. To take an example, reinforcement cannot be applied to explain obesity, the poverty. Trauma and food insecurity are also contributing factors. Behaviorism has contributed immensely to the field of psychology by developing scientific experimental modes, giving realistic behavior change techniques, influencing healthcare and education. However, it is criticized for reductionism, environment determinism, little description of internal mental process in modern practice. Behaviorism is still much influential, but is generally combined into larger biopsychosocial systems. Cognitive psychology. Key theorists Jean Piaget, 1952, The Levels of Development. Aaron Beck, Cognitive Therapy. Lev Vygotsky, 1978, Social Interaction. Cognitive psychology involves internal processes that are conducted within a human mind, like thinking, memory, perception, problem solving, and language. It claims that behavior depends on the processing of information by individuals. It was developed to counter the emphasis of behaviorism on the observable behavior. A key theorist is Jean Piaget, theory of cognitive development. Piaget hypothesized the children develop in stages of the cognitive development and build up knowledge by engaging the world. Example, the child who understands how to conserve volume, to know that the amount of liquid does not change with the changes of the shape containing vessel in a given learning shows cognitive development. In learning, scaffolding strategy is the method applied by teachers to assist children to transition to abstract thinking. These are also cognitive approaches employed in the therapy, including assisting the young people to refute some negative thought patterns that influence behavior. Assumptions, the mental processes affect behavior. The brain is an information processing system. Development is an episodic process of cognitive development. Application, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT of mental health, education and special education needs, SEN. On strength and weaknesses, we've got evidence-based therapy, CBT, formatted and time-based interventions. Weaknesses, we've got simplistic about emotions, individualized distress, less attention to socio-economic inequality. Importantly, NICE guidelines recommend CBT in a highly positive way when it comes to depression and anxiety. Nevertheless, critics claim that it may return to a standardized remedy within overstretched NHS service without involving the changes in thoughts and treating poverty, discrimination, and trauma. The outcomes of the therapy can be restricted. Thus, cognitive psychology is effective but ineffective on its own. The contribution of cognitive psychology is a strong framework of comprehending the effects of thinking, processing, behavior, strong research, based therapy application, practical applications in education, appreciates the dynamic contribution of the individual. Limitations, the process of the mind are not observable, may minimize emotional, biological, or social influences. Cognitive approaches are also extensively used in a modern psychology, although they are most beneficial when used in a context of the larger biopsychosocial models. Psychoanalysis or psychodynamic psychology. Main theorist Sigmund Freud, unconscious mind. John Bowlby, emotional security and influence by caregivers. Melanie Klein, early associations with objects and development of infant emotion. The psychodynamic theory, which was established by Freud, focuses on the unconscious mind, childhood experiences, early childhood experiences, internal conflicts. The attachment theory proposed by Bowlby brought psychodynamic thought to the field of developing psychology. In nursing, knowing about attachment is useful in the support of patients with a background of trauma. Psychoanalysis of psychodynamic psychology evaluation. The assumptions, unconscious processes have an effect on behavior, childhood influences, personality in old age. The behaviors are formed by the internal conflict and different mechanisms. Application, mental health and trauma-informed practice, protecting and attachment-based practice in child services. Strengths and weaknesses. Strengths emphasizes emotional depth, highlights early trauma, affects trauma-informed care. And weaknesses, hardly testable scientifically, based on small case studies, gender and cultural bias in initial theory. The psychodynamic approach gives a very good understanding on unconscious mechanism, early formative stages and emotional associations, strengths, good insight on emotional and interpersonal challenges, influential in practice and protecting in therapy, effective contribution using the theory of attachment, limitations, the lack of empirical testability, an overemphasis on early childhood, time-intensive interventions, psychodynamic principles are very relevant in modern psychology, especially to trauma-informed and attachment-based services, but can be most effective when applied in a multidisciplinary approach. Biological psychology, main theorist, Charles Darwin, behaviors developed by natural selection, Donald Hebb, 1949, neurons that fire together, wire together, Eric Kandel, connection between memory formation and the changes in the brain. Biological psychology is a discipline that pays attention to the contribution of genetics, brain structures, neurotransmitters, and hormones on behavior and development. It claims that behavior is psychologically grounded. Such a view is based on the studies of neuroscience and genetics. Example, a child is suffering from ADHD might experience variations in the regulations of dopamine and the work of brain. Biological explanations are the basis of medication and neurodevelopmental assessment. On the same note, the knowledge on how the brain develops within the adolescent stage helps in explaining the risk-taking behavior. Mostly, biological psychology is applied in medical and psychiatric case scenarios. Biological and psychology evaluation assumptions. The brain structure and functional affect behavior. Mental illness are biological in nature. Partly behavior is inherited genetically. The application, the NHS and mental health treatment, neurodevelopmental conditions, e.g., ADHD and autism, strengths and weaknesses, strength supported by neuroscience, definite biological process, successive acute intervention, weaknesses, reductionist medicalization of normal distress risk, may overlook social causes. The biological perspective has contributed significantly to the field of psychology through the association of behavior and mental health with the functioning of the brain, heredity, and neurochemistry. Strong scientific evidence, optimal medication interventions, less stigma of mental illness, limitations, reductionist explanations, minimal emphasis of experience of life, a risk of over medicalization. Biological psychology is best applied in modern psychology as part of psychosocial model, which integrates medical therapy, both psychological and social intervention, to produce holistic results. Social psychology, main theorist, Albert Bandura, social learning theory, Stanley Milgram, obedience, Henry Tagfell, social identity theory. Social psychology studies the ways in which thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of people are determined by other people and by social situations. It dwells on group behavior, social influence, identity, and conformity. A key theorist is Albert Bandura, social learning theory. Bandura put forward that individuals acquire behaviors through observation, imitation, modeling. Example, when a child sees other children being complimented or on kindness, he or she can copy such behavior. On the same note, aggressive role models can promote aggressive behavior. The social psychological principles also explain the reasons social media have a power over the esteem and identity of adolescents. Social psychology evaluation assumptions. Social influences behavior. Individuals acquire knowledge by observing and imitating. The social identity has an effect on behavior. On application, we've got online social media and behavior, public health campaigns. On strength and weaknesses, strength, we've got elucidates prejudice and discrimination, indicates influence of inequality, funds community health promotion. On weaknesses, we've got laboratory experiments can be unrealistic. The issue of ethics is traditional in traditional experiments. Most importantly, health inequalities in the UK are minor images of social determinants of health, such as deprivation and discrimination. The social psychology helps to support NHS priorities such as inequality minimization. Similarities all aim to explain behavior. Modern interventions are influenced by all behaviorism, behavior management practices, cognitive, CBT, psychodynamic attachment based therapy, biological, medication, social, anti-bullying, and public health programs. All aim to explain behavior. Both schools of thought seek to explain why people think, feel, and act in the manner that they do. Modern interventions are influenced by all behaviorism, behavior management practices, cognitive, CBT, psychodynamic, attachment-based therapy, biological medication, social anti-bullying, and public health programs. Each of them is involved in treating mental health. NICE guidelines and entail the combination of biological and psychological models. NICE 2022. Differences. We've got perspective, behaviorism, cognitive, psychodynamic, biological, social. On behaviorism, primary focus, observable behavior, mental processes, unconscious conflict, brain and genetics, social influence on social, view of behavior, we've got acquired through conditioning, a victim of thinking patterns, on psychodynamic shaped by early experiences, biological is got biologically determined, on social it's got it's got influenced by group, social standards and identity. Then on key limitations on behaviorism, we've got disregards the internal process. On cognitive, the process are not directly observed. On psychodynamic, we've got a limited empirical testing. On biological, we've got reductionist, and on social, we've got underplays biology. Key analytical differences: determinism, biological and behaviorist approaches are more deterministic. There are fewer restrictions on agents in cognitive. Nature versus nurture. Nature is highlighted in biological. Social psychology and behaviorism focus on nature. Psychodynamic combines the two, though early experience is favored. Psycho-regal, bio and behaviorist methods are very dependent on experimental techniques. Psychodynamic theory is more based on the case study. Psychology of the present day is leaning more towards a biopsychosocial model, and acknowledging that no particular approach can entirely account for behavior. That's Angel, 1977. For example, the National Health Service may treat depression with the following: antidepressants, biological. Conclusion: psychological approaches are insightful. Behaviorism offers behavioral interventions. Cognitive psychology promotes systematic treatment. Psychodynamic theory emphasizes on trauma. Medical care is informed by biological psychology. Inequality and group influence is explained by social psychology. Nonetheless, no particular view is adequate. Good nursing involves psychosocial approach and complies the NHS policy and perspective on person-centered care. Theoretical integration is necessary to ethical, holistic, and evidence-based is critically evaluated. References: Chomsky, 1959, A Review of Verbal Behavior by B.F. Skinner, Language 35, 1 pp. 22658, Department. Yeah. So, as you can see, these are the references, and these are the rest. Cognitive therapy and the emotional disorders, New York International Universities, and all these are some of the references. Thank you.